Greetings, everyone. This is Shadab Hussain here. Welcome to the show, the AI Files.
Hey, and good morning, everybody. And good morning, Shadab, actually. Happy Sunday morning to you. Just reminding everybody, Jamie Basilico. I am one of Shadab's cohorts, if you will, and been focused around data and AI for a very long time. Just to remind everybody again, get the legal stuff out of the way. The opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of Microsoft, which is the company that both of us work for. With that, anyway, good morning. How are things so far this weekend for you, Shadab?
The weekend was actually good. It's always quick, but it's been pretty pleasant actually, the weather wise, and not much rain. So I think it's been good. Enjoying actually, playing a lot of tennis and just enjoying the AI. AI is never ending, non-stopping world, and just keeps us busy.
Yeah, definitely. It's been it always keeps us busy. Actually, doing a little bit of work with my son, um, trying to do some coding together with some projects. Maybe I'll show that and demo that one day once we get done. But doing that a little bit over the weekend. And you mentioned nice weather. It's not bad. I'm actually looking forward to what happens at the end of next week with a potential hurricane. So definitely bringing together my AI and my weather skills all in one, wrapped into each other for this weekend. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. Uh,
Yeah, and a good thought actually, Jamie. You mentioned a good point. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. You said about that project that you're doing with your son on the coding and with AI. I think that's a great project. Honestly, I feel that this is what a lot of people have asked me about, right? That they want to learn AI, they want to do something, but they just don't know where to start.
yeah,
And I think this is something that we invite all our audience. If they have questions like this, please drop them in the comment, and we will try to respond to them, or just contact us. um, I think the AI is for everyone. Everybody can do it. You do not need to be a programmer. I can 100% watch you. You do not need to be a programmer. You can do it. Engage your teens, your kids, everyone. Everybody can use it, and we will show you. Drop your idea, what you want to do. Just don't hold your creativity, and we will advise you how to get started on that one. Okay. So good point, Jamie.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and
Good.
yeah. I was going to say too, if we get through some all the things we have today and have a little bit of time, I could show everybody a little bit on how to use these Gen AI tools and do a quick thought on comparison of some concepts. So anyway, let's get into it. Quote of the week. What do you got for us?
Yeah, AI code of the week. Sometimes you have too many choices to pick from, but I've picked this one. Okay. So it is about Tom Hanks again, clarifying or kind of putting a disclaimer, because Tom Hanks' image, or like his image is being used in the video to actually promote certain products. And these things have become so real that the unfortunately the people have to come out and kind of clarify that no, it's not them. Remember last week we talked about Taylor Swift having to come out and clarify about the defect. This time it was Tom Hanks' son. And he said there's a video out there promoting some dental plan with an AI version of me. I have nothing to do with it. Look at the audacity of these players, right, who have been actually like creating these kind of deep fake and videos of these celebrities and promoting them so brazenly, that these celebrities, and what if they don't get to see it? What if the celebrities don't get to see it? What if they just don't have time to do it, right? I mean, so many gullible people out there are at the risk of falling into it, right? So it's really concerning. I think we definitely need some more protection, and I think this week we will talk about it. Some start in California about
Yeah,
some protection that have happened.
yeah, definitely, and maybe that's a good segue on that one. Governor Gavin Newsom this week signed three different bills. I think there's one or two more still in the hopper, but one of it was or a series of those bills were to be focused on the various different laws to combat, at least in this scenario, election-related deepfakes around AI. So some of this stuff is, you got to think about in the way that people might be influenced from watching videos, and not to say that everybody will just blindly follow things, but unfortunately that is the case. They'll see something like you mentioned, Taylor Swift, or Tom Hanks. Maybe he's getting up there and promoting a particular candidate. So what this law was to make it illegal for the creation and the deep fakes, or sorry, the distribution of those deep fakes 120 days before an election and 60 days after. So if you think about it, is that really going to stop people from creating these things? No, in my opinion, but they have to be disseminated somewhere, right? So you think about the platforms. Is it X? Is it Facebook? Is it Snapchat? Whatever the platform is du jour. So it will put this bill, at least in my opinion, will put the onus on those companies rather than the individuals that are making it. So if there's no way for a person to actually get it out there to the masses, that's to me what is trying to be stopped. And it goes back to these various different social media companies. It's about trying to remove that quote unquote deceptive content that could focus somebody's thoughts, ideas, if you will, around a particular campaign. So that's one part of it. The other piece of it too is these bills are meant to actually enforce information that these social media platforms have to disclose if particular ads are created by AI. So it doesn't mean that all AI is bad. Don't get me wrong in this one, because there could be some things. Hey, you just want to use AI. Let's say if Sora eventually comes out, and there's a plethora of other video tools like Runway that could actually generate AI-based video. That doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's trying to be deceptive. But what these bills are meant to do for campaigns in California is to disclose if those ads themselves are, created or content altered by AI. So anyway, those are some of the things, like I mentioned, in California, and kind of talks back to some of the quote of the week that you said with Tom Hanks. Obviously, it's not a dental plan, but you can see the applicability there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Jamie, I actually like this law. This is actually important because, and I think it's on the line of that. Okay, you don't have to punish the developers entirely or exclusively, but the people who make the apps do have some responsibility. And many times we may not realize that the extent of the problem, but I can tell you the extent of the problem with social media allowed to carry these deep fakes or fake news is unbelievable in many parts of the world. And we have literally seen the example of where the rumors are spread through the social media. It is clearly that it is a rumor, and it actually is literally taking lives away from people. The mob lynching and all those kind of things happen in various places. I've seen that in India and in Africa and Asia and many parts of the world. Um, and the thing is that this is dangerous, and the social media platform do bear the responsibility. In many parts of the world, they have complete immunity. They have no legal framework to actually be liable for this one, and they need to be. So I think it's a good start.
Yeah. There is a fine line though between ensuring that what you're seeing is correct, but then also free speech. We could probably spend the whole hour on that, and I definitely don't want to do that now or here on this platform. But I do worry a little bit between government regulation and then how far that overreaches into free speech. So, but anyway, definitely
Yeah,
important topic. Keeping everybody
absolutely.
updated.
And I agree with free speech in the sense that that I think yeah, let it be free speech, but market as that this is not a right image, right? So
Right.
That I think there's some sort of watermarking, or I think that would still be that should still be allowed,
Yeah.
and let people create something fake, but let it be designated as fake.
Right. Yeah. It's about the deception things.
Yep.
So in other big news, I don't know how many people are actually around back in the late 70s, but here in the Northeast, there is a major power plant that has been shut down, but is now being talked about being restarted up. So Microsoft is reportedly, and it's not even just reportedly, it's been out there in the news the last couple of days, but we'll be buying power from a power plant called 3 Mile Island. So it's a nuclear power plant. It is a 20-year power purchase agreement with Constellation Energy to help restart the closed down 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania. I alluded to it already, but there was a major accident at that power plant many years ago, and there was a shutdown of that nuclear reactor plant. That doesn't mean the whole plant was shut down. It was one of the reactor cores, so it had been operating for a number of years. But the regulatory commission, nuclear regulatory commission, that is, had shut down the power plant in conjunction with the energy owner back in 2019 due to various different operational reasons. So why is this important? Why are we talking about it as it relates to AI? I think everyone knows that you need computers to run AI. So as all of us are using these great tools, there's got to be some computers that are running in the background. I think everyone also knows that you need a lot of computers to be able to run these these powered machines, which again everyone's been talking about, Nvidia and some of those other chip makers, the GPUs. Well, those actual GPUs running some machine, to run those machines you need a lot of energy. I thought I might have seen some figure at one point that said, AI, I don't think it's right now, but in a couple of years AI will take up 30% of the world's electricity, or at least the power consumption here in the US. So if that's going to be using that much energy, we need other sources to be able to get energy into our electric grids here in the US, as well as elsewhere in the world. So, there's only so much fossil fuel. There's, there's certainly a lot of research around how we could use like wave action. Microsoft is doing some of those things, obviously harnessing wind and solar, but you still need a lot of energy. So, nuclear's been around for a very long time. And, here in the US, I think there's, most people don't realize it, but I think there's like 80 or so nuclear reactors active right now. So this comes back to the need for power for artificial intelligence. And here's where Microsoft has stepped in to say there's a non operational plant. What if we bring that back online and that feeds back into the electric grid? And Microsoft will be buying that power basically to run the data centers that are running Copilot Studio or M365 Copilot, or all of our or all of the Azure OpenAI instances and everything else that's running on the Microsoft Azure ecosystem for artificial intelligence. So I thought that was kind of cool. We need energy. This is a way of doing it. Bring it. I'm all for nuclear, by the way.
So yeah, I mean, nuclear is pretty common actually. It's but it always scare things up, right?
Yeah.
The potential of it is actually huge, right? I think one of the professor actually, he kind of gave a analogy in terms of the potential of the nuclear energy, right? He says that, like, picture a lollipop, and then if that lollipop was made of uranium, then it could provide all the energy you would need over your entire lifetime. And the waste from providing that energy would also be the size of a lollipop. And that's why it is often considered a clean energy and huge power. Like, imagine, right? That just that size of a lollipop, and the size of a lollipop is the waste, and it provides you the energy for entire lifetime. So huge potential. But that, regardless, I mean, this waste is highly radioactive, and that does create a problem, right? Chernobyl is always on mind of people, so it always brings out kind of memories. But I think by the way, Bill Gates has been a big proponent of this energy. The fusion is also actually being considered a lot because energy. Yeah, I mean the AI is definitely energy hungry. So we'll see. I think good thing is that there are multiple ways in the which the power is being harnessed, even the wave energy and all those kind of things. So
Yep.
it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, I think the bottom line takeaway of this one is in order to do all the cool things that we're used to seeing right now and cool things in the future around AI, you need power to be able to do it. So I think this is an interesting step to enhance our electric grid and be able to supply what's needed to run, these models. Anyway, next topic, I guess, for a news item. I heard some things with Lionsgate and Runway. You want to impart some knowledge on us, Shadab, on what this is bringing to the table?
Yeah, so this is again another spicy topic actually, that Lionsgate and Runway is a company who actually provides these kind of platforms to actually enable and create the medias, right? Like the images and the videos particularly, and they've done a partnership to explore AI driven content creation. So of course Runway will actually take care of the creating and training a AI model for the Lionsgate film and television content. um, it of course it has a lot of positive, it has also a lot of negative, and we'll discuss about that. But it is something that happening in parallel to many other things. Remember, even the California, actually, Gavin Newsom also, I think, signed that bill about protecting the workers
Yeah, yeah,
from AI, right? And on the other hand, this news came about, right?
yeah.
um,
It's sort of like
um,
you got both at the same time. It's like, hey, we're going
exactly.
to protect actors and their likeness, and then boom, Runway comes in with one of the
Exactly,
filmmakers.
exactly. And like it's like but again, this is another of those things, we as you talked about the nuclear energy, this is another of those things. I think it's inevitable,
Yeah,
it is going to happen. It is also futile to like completely resist about this technology. It's just another technology, right? I mean, we have been doing the CGI, right? CGI has also been used, and it has of course improved the content. It has not necessarily taken the jobs away. And similarly, that the AI will also create it, some new form of entertainment. I don't think that people want to completely do away and have completely generated content. We will see how the people's behavior change, but I think this experiment is worth it doing, in my view. You cannot just simply theoretically reject it. You have to try it and see how that goes. And if your job is entirely dependent on withholding a technology, then I think you need to think about your job.
yeah, and to the points that you raised, I think it is inevitable as well. I mean, there's this cross section between technology and the creatives. Movie studios are obviously a form of those creatives, and we've been seeing it for a number of years, whether it's AI or not. One of the things that I thought was interesting with this announcement is the fact that Runway will be creating a new AI model. So they're going to create a new model, train it. I'm assuming they're going to train it based upon content from past Lionsgate movies or content, and that will give some I'm going to call it shape and or some resemblance of the things that they've done. But obviously there's new things that they want to create as well. But to me, that was one of the things I took away, that it's not just something that they have off the shelf in terms of an AI model, but they're going to be creating some new things. So we'll see where this goes. You mentioned some of the pros. Obviously enhances creativity, and there's efficiencies, obviously, because it's going to reduce costs. Because if it took 2 months for somebody to come up with creating creating the shot and this lighting, that lighting, where if you could do it within 2 hours off of AI, that'll certainly drive a lot of efficiencies. I doubt it's going to change the ticket prices for us going to see the movies, but it'll certainly make theoretically a greater profits for these companies making it. The things certainly that I've seen already around some of the cons potentially for this, and this is not an argument just on this scenario, but it's job displacement. Is this going to replace the human roles in what is the creative process and or even filming? I mean, if you think about the people that run around getting sandwiches, I mean, literally something like that on a set. Well, you don't have any sets anymore. There's all AI generated. So is this going to be replacing some jobs? Yes. I don't think we could say that jobs aren't going to be replaced. It's inevitable as well. But outside of job displacement, quality control, is this going to be the same quality that you would have had if this was, just creating movies the way that we typically do? And again, I don't think this is going to be an end-to-end movie. This will be various different scenes that would be spliced in. So, there's that QC element, and then just the things that you talked about before around ethical things. Is this copyrighted? Human creativity being removed, at least in part. So all of those kind of things go hand in hand with just trying to understand what does this really mean. But I'm excited to see what's going to be generated, and I'll be interested to see whether or not I can determine, out of a movie what's been AI generated or not. I mean, we already have it with CGI when they do blowing up a building. Hopefully, everyone realizes in most cases that's not real. So AI is already doing things inside of movies. I think this is really about actors and the way that things interact with that whole scene. So
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly. And I think what will happen is, look, I mean, we all have our favorite characters, actors, etc. And I think it's not just about because we see them, right? I mean, it's also about their character, right? It is about, so people kind of form these bonds, and people will continue to want to see those human actors. So I don't think that completely goes away. That's one thing. The other
yeah,
is that, remember, like any trend, you change certain technology, you change certain thing, and then it goes out of fashion, but then it comes back as a retro. So
yeah,
what would happen is that even if we use a lot of AI and CGI, and even if and then after some time people will say, nah, the technology, I'm bored, let's bring the humans back, and then it will become retro, right? So so that
yeah,
kind of, I think, will continue to happen. But the other thing is also that, again, this is only the content creation. Remember, the AI will continue to play the role even behind the scene, right? Backstage as well, right? I mean, a lot of planning, a lot of writing, all those things will happen. Not just the content creation, but also the logistics, the planning, and all those kind of things will happen. So it will play part. I think it just use it as a tool, so that otherwise what happens is that a lot of resistance gets created, and then it becomes kind of a divide, and there's a human on one side and technology on one side. However, in my view, that if humans carry the technology along, it just become an assistant.
yeah. Agreed. So let's transition to the next one, and here's a good transition piece. When does AI creep into our world in a scenario where we don't know it's actually being used? So this one's all about LinkedIn. So somewhat quietly, I would say, there was a new, I wouldn't even call it a feature, but it's a setting that was rolled out that allows LinkedIn to use your data for AI training purposes. And obviously, it would be for good. It's all about improving one's interaction with LinkedIn and the things that are there, and obviously how data is super important. But here's the but: the ability for you to know that your data is being collected is somewhat buried inside of LinkedIn, and it's turned on by default. So I think that that's the biggest thing that kind of caught people off surprise this week when I'm not sure if somebody stumbled upon this or not, or if it was just announced that, oh, we're collecting your data, but it's a silent opt-in. So LinkedIn has quietly, rolled out this feature without explicit consent on your part to collect that data for AI training. In my opinion, that's like should have been the other way around. Should be defaulted no, and then you got to opt in for it. So obviously, what does that do? People freak out, raises concerns about user privacy, the transparency of LinkedIn as a company, what's being done or not done with your data. But again, I go back to what is this really for? It's about integrating various different AI tools within LinkedIn to enhance your user experience. But there is a backlash to that. Without that clear communication, that's going to make a lot of people not that happy. So you can opt out of this, but it's not straightforward, and I haven't really seen anything that gives a detailed walkthrough on how and where this is. So maybe this will be my good deed of the week, if you will, but or maybe a nice little public service announcement. But let me show you where this thing is. Let me just share my screen. So as I mentioned, it's a feature inside of LinkedIn. So this is my real LinkedIn profile. So you have to go into your profile. Once you're there, it's under data privacy, and you can see a whole bunch of things, right? It's not jumping out at you, that's for sure. But there's data for generative AI improvement. You got to click on that. And if you notice, this is on by default. I did not change my settings. Like I said, this is just turned on for everybody. So if you don't want your data being collected for AI training purposes, just click that off and then you're good. Like I said, I'm not paranoid and I got nothing to hide. So I'm leaving that on. But that's where it is. You take your own thoughts on where you stand. If you wanted to leave it on, leave it on. If you want to turn it off, at least now you know where to go to turn it off.
That is true. No judgment. But I'm with you, Jamie. I've also left it on. In fact, most often, most of the platforms, wherever there is a setting, even if I'm aware, even if it is, implicit, I'm okay because, I want a better experience. And ultimately every company, every platform needs the data to train. Without data, it's useful. So on one
Right.
hand, if I want a better experience, I need to kind of contribute as well. I cannot be just a simply detached consumer of something and still wanting to have a better experience without contributing to it. So this is our way to contribute. I do contribute, again, nothing to hide, etc. But I think I'm not sure, but I think a lot of people, of course, I think for them it's not about nothing to hide. It's also about, hey, you should have asked me, right? I should have had a better acknowledgement, a notification, and then I want to be in control of the choices. So yeah, I mean, fair enough. I agree. I think maybe it should have been a better notified. I agree on that part. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
and then people would have been probably more receptive to it.
I agree on that for sure. So moving away from LinkedIn, let's go to OpenAI. I heard that they're looking for even more money. What do you got for us on that one, Shadab?
Two things never end at OpenAI. One is the energy, and the other is money. Uh, they need a lot of it. But here's the thing, Jamie. So the OpenAI next funding, that's reportedly they are valuing themselves at the proposed figure of somewhere between 150 to 175, but most likely 150. And they are actually trying to raise the funding round. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? It seems a big figure, but nothing. There are plenty of takers. There are more companies willing to actually put money in OpenAI than they need it. They actually have a choice of picking whom they want, and also there is, I think, a minimum threshold of a quarter of a billion, $250 million minimum threshold is what they have put to invest. And as usual, there are plenty of takers actually. Of course, Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple are also going to participate in that one. And no big deal. To be honest, this valuation is also no big deal. The reason is also there were news about the ChatGPT has now more than 10 million paying subscribers and
Yeah,
another 1 million subscribers that are
here's
part of
one.
their high place.
Yeah, yeah, I'm one of those paying subscribers, by the way.
Me too. I'm contributing to that valuation,
Yeah,
Jamie. Uh, and they are actually on their paths. These are like, remember, these figures are like estimated because it's not like always. Um, it's not a public company, right? So, $4 billion uh, annualized revenue over the next 12 months is what is estimated. So they are on pretty good track. It's just almost double. In the last 1 year. So they are on the good track. They have had some comparative pressure, but their recent O1 model, I think, has been again very well received. They generally have pretty good reception of every product that they and so they have continued to prove despite all the the talent exodus that we saw, they still have a pretty good pipeline.
yeah, and to your point, like where they're seeing growing revenue. I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but the OpenAI model themselves is in a lot of different tools or products. Like if you think about Perplexity obviously has a choice of different models to use, but when you use the OpenAI model and you use Perplexity in the professional, and we won't get into Perplexity, but money goes back to OpenAI, and there's a lot of tools that do that type of business model. So yeah, OpenAI is definitely growing in valuation, growing in revenue. I think it was even just a couple of weeks ago where we talked about an early stage of this funding. The company was reportedly 100 billion then, and this is maybe just a month later, and now it's up to 175 or whatever that number was. So you just see this trajectory or growth in the valuation of OpenAI and the various different investors or groups of investors or companies that are willing to pitch in you know billions of dollars into the coffers of OpenAI, because they do see the potential, they do see the strategy, they do see the vision, and you know there's things certainly on the horizon. We've got Strawberry, quote unquote, oh 01. There's the rumors now are flying around for GPT-5 or whatever it's going to be, somewhere maybe after the holidays, something like that. So again, it all goes back to the vision on what's being done and what can be delivered through OpenAI. So exciting times. I just wish someone would give me $1 billion.
True, true. I think, Jamie, this they continue to impress. To be honest, it's a they are in here for long game. They are pretty well structured. I think Sam Altman has done a tremendous job. Remember, it's not just about collecting some researchers and the best technologists, right? You also need to have a savvy business mind, right? Um, Apple is Apple, not just because they have a best technology or something. In fact, they are laggard and many times in terms of the technology, right? They take their time, but it was the genius of Steve Jobs, right? In terms of the thinking of the business, the product experience. So a lot goes on, and I think Sam Altman knows how to create the deals, how to actually put a show, right? He knows that he has that art. Bill Gates was also pretty good at it. So again, technology, business, a good combination at OpenAI. By the way, I just want to put things in perspective, right? So this $7 billion that they've asked from investors at a proposed valuation of $150 billion, just putting that into perspective, that valuation is more than the market capitalization of Bank of China, which has $173 billion of annual revenue. Okay, compare that with OpenAI, just at max $4 billion.
Yeah.
And Bank of China has $32 billion of annual profits. And when it comes to OpenAI, it is still suspected that they're still losing some billions, right? And because they have a lot of free version and all those kind of thing, and there's a lot goes on in terms of the training costs, etc. They are continuing to invest, right? They're not just reaping the rewards right now. It's just plowing money back. And Bank of China, is number 13 in world in annual revenue. Look at the value that AI has created for OpenAI.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a value creator for sure. So,
Absolutely.
um, switching gears, I guess we'll talk about some launches, or maybe sort of a launch. So there was a big announcement by Microsoft this past week around what is being dubbed Wave 2 of Copilot. So if I know I've said it probably on this channel a few times, and if anyone's heard me speak, at a company or an event, you know that I say that Microsoft has over pivoted on the term Copilot. Again, think AI assistants, but there's many different Copilots. So this Wave 2 of Copilot is really around the Microsoft Copilot or M365 Copilot, as well as Copilot Studio, and all of the other quote unquote AI assistants that are woven into some of the productivity tools that we know and love, things like Excel. So you might hear Copilot Wave 2. It's not a single thing, it's many different things. So just remember that. So if we break that down into what are those many things, the first one that I'll talk about is Copilot Studio. Oh, and by the way, the reason why I said this is sort of a launch, it was a press release and an announcement, but the actual things don't get released to the public starting until October, which isn't that far. What's today's September 22nd. So, in a couple of weeks, some of these will be released, but the full extent of everything I'm about to tell you is not going to be released until March of 2025. So, we're probably, 6 months out or away from all of what I'm about to tell you being able to be in your hands. All right.
So why
So,
was it announced now, Jamie?
so,
Why
so
can't we wait for the Ignite, which is going to happen in 2 weeks?
there's going to be even more news at Ignite, right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of deep dives into this at Ignite for sure.
I think actually it's a game, right, that goes on between the competition,
Yeah.
right? So remember Salesforce, Dreamforce,
Yep.
and they had also some launches, and they even mentioned Microsoft, things like that. So good timing. It's a
Yeah.
good fun game that plays out between competition.
I say it's that leapfrog. You want to be in the news, and you want to like say, hey, these are the great things we're working on. And like you said, a little bit of that is also peer pressure,
Yeah.
company peer pressure. Like what is someone putting out? So anyway, Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio, if people remember, this is the rebranding of Power Virtual Agents, which is part of Power Platform. So Copilot Studio allows people to build AI assistants. The first iteration of this is really around adding generative AI into chatbots. Again, these virtual agents to chat back and forth. So, Copilot Studio, great tool, but there certainly were things that needed to be added and kind of what I'll call finishing around the edges. So, what Wave 2 of Copilot Studio brings in is the ability to connect with more of those quote unquote connectors that are part of the Power Platform. And if you look at what's behind the scenes, if anyone's used Power Platform and something like Power Query, you know that there's a bunch of different connectors to get to data. And why is that important? Because when we talk about using your own data in a company setting, getting to that source of information is kind of important, right? So Copilot Studio opens up more or more of a vast treasure chest of the things that you can connect into while you're creating these AI assistants, these chatbots. The other thing that's coming in this wave too is greater integration with doing workflows and without the need for creating, code. That's the whole intent around Copilot Studio. So more things there for doing that. Think of things like data mapping, app logic, and those interrelated concepts. One of the other things that I thought was interesting, and it was sort of like a one-liner when you read the press release, is the ability now to connect into OpenAI custom GPTs. So to me, this is great because now if I've created a GPT in OpenAI, and maybe we'll do a session on that if people haven't seen it, but if I give it the persona, give it some information around knowledge that it has, and open it up to various different tools that could be used in that GPT, custom GPT, well, that could be called directly now by the Copilot or the agent that you create inside of Copilot Studio. So there's some of that integration. By the way, we're about to tell you something else. So here's the other part of this wave too. And the reason why I'm jumping to this now is I believe that there's going to be some connection between this new feature in M365 Copilot coupled back into the Copilot Studio. So let's jump now into one of these other quote unquote assistants. So the other Copilot, as I just mentioned, is M365 Copilot. That is, think of it this way. This is your productivity tools that we now, or Microsoft is now putting out the ability of these AI assistants. Well, the first wave was great. I mean, think about it. We had Microsoft Teams do your recording of a meeting, and then you could ask Copilot within Teams to summarize. So all those things are there, but there were other elements. Let's just say that it was wave one. Things like Copilot in PowerPoint. It would work sometimes. It would work, maybe not sometimes. There's, how do you get Copilot in a tool that everyone probably uses every day, and that's Excel. So there are advancements now in those productivity tools with these AI assistants with this wave 2. So I'll just give you an example. Excel is getting a Python engine that can automatically create the Python that's needed. And if you think about analyzing data, well, that's something that these AI assistants can do really well. Think about Code Interpreter inside of OpenAI. Kind of go back to what I just mentioned about building custom GPTs. You have that now. You can harness that power directly within Excel through Copilot, where it'll use this Python piece. The other side of it, I mentioned some things like enhancements within PowerPoint. All right, so those are kind of cool, but let's get to the two of the biggest ones within this M365 Copilot Wave 2. One of them is what's being called pages or Copilot pages. The way that I could summarize this is, let's say that you start out with a question against the AI assistant, the Copilot, but when you get those answers back, all right, that's an answer that I'm looking at. And what do most people typically do? Copy, cut, and paste, send it into an email, or open up a chat with maybe a coworker. But what Pages now allows you to do is say, take your answers directly from that Copilot and put it into a editable page where I can invite coworkers into, so they could see not only what I just got out of an output, but they could add their own information. They could put in additional AI-based info that they got. So it's a great way of interacting. We'll show you a demo that was released. It's a video, pretty short. It's about a minute. We'll get to that in a second.
Introducing Copilot Pages. Pages is a dynamic, persistent canvas designed for multiplayer AI collaboration. Let's say you work for an EV charging company and there's a new business opportunity. You start in BizChat, where you ask Copilot to do some research on the web. You want some basic information, like the number of daily passengers and information on the number of parking spaces with EV chargers. Copilot pulls the information and you turn the response into a page so you can keep working. You want to share what you've got so far and ask your colleagues to help. So you tag them. Now everyone can immediately start to contribute, and you can see their edits in real time. Next, you need to get started on a plan for your proposal. So let's switch over to the Work tab. Here, you can ask Copilot to reference a previous plan to give you a head start. Copilot pulls in the deliverables, work back schedule, and owners, which you add to your page. Immediately, your colleagues can begin updating the work back schedule and assigning owners. The next step is the proposal outline. You want to review the customer needs, so a coworker uses Copilot to pull in a bulleted list of requirements from a recorded meeting with the customer last week. In seconds, Copilot is able to synthesize the discussion and give your team the key takeaways. Now you're ready to start building the proposal. Last year, you landed a similar deal, so you want to reuse that great work. You ask Copilot to use that proposal as a starting point and update it to include the new customer requirements. With one last click, Copilot pulls it all together for you. Pages is an entirely new pattern of work designed for human to AI to human collaboration.
Wow, that was powerful, Jamie. I think it
Yeah. So
can it can
yeah,
really change the way we work. I've been using these copilots, M365 copilots, and all that, and it has definitely changed already the way I work. Particularly I love the Teams copilot. I love that now what is called the biz chat. That's how I really work. I don't search by the keywords anymore. I just ask a question, get the answer, and then so far I had to like copy the response and then edit it. But now I can directly use that, directly export that into the pages, and I think it's going to be a better productivity now.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it adds to productivity. So that's the good side of this. I mean, everyone just saw what you could add in, 5, 6, whatever it was, people in your group. They could all work directly on that output or the output that came out from the Copilot assistant. But and again, I go back to you haven't been able to put our hands on this stuff yet because it's not out yet. And even though you and I both work for Microsoft, we don't have access to this yet. So there's one thing, it's a question in my mind, and it's hard to say whether or not this is going to be available day one with these Copilot pages. But what it seemed to me, based upon the video that we just watched, was is is there the ability to create multiple pages? And the reason why I say that, at least for me, I'll work on something today, but I might not be done with it, and I might pick that up tomorrow, 2 days from now, a week from now, and I still want to collaborate with other people, but I've got other projects going on as well. So does that mean that I can spawn multiple quote unquote Copilot pages? I don't know. That video just showed one, and I didn't see any ability to spawn off another page. I'm assuming it's going to be there because that just seems too simple a miss if it's not. So, time will tell. Maybe I'll go back and look at this video 2 months from now and say, okay, good. They did add the ability to create multiple pages. All right. So that's the pages side. The other new information or new release forthcoming is something called AI agents within M365 Copilot. Oh, by the way, the interface, yeah, it's still Copilot, but it's being called BizChat. And that again relates onto the business side when you're using the work one. So if you hear me say BizChat, that's what it is. So AI agents working in conjunction with BizChat, which is the interface, I could say create an agent directly within the Copilot or M365 Copilot. What will an agent do? Well, I'm going to let you actually watch the video first, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what it is, because in my opinion, it's not what I thought it was. Roll the tape. Let's get to the video.
Copilot agents can supercharge every business process and build capacity for every individual and team, scaling your impact like never before. Now, with Agent Builder and BizChat, we're bringing the power of agents to you, right in the flow of your work. And we made them incredibly easy to create. Say you want to build an agent for field service technicians, and you want this agent to have access to all your product knowledge and be able to give you step-by-step instructions in real time. You open Agent Builder and describe that you want it to be able to reason over your product catalog and repair tickets. It's built in seconds and ready to use. You can edit and configure it, expand its knowledge base by tapping into resources like SharePoint sites or other IT-approved data sources. You can even update its name or image to align with your company's branding. You can now test the agent or hit create and you're done. And of course, the agent respects your organization's Microsoft 365 and SharePoint security permissions. Now your Copilot agent is ready in BizChat and you can share it with your team.
If you think back to the agents that we saw in the video, and this goes to the comment I alluded to before we cut to the videos. When I first heard that, AI agents are going to be incorporated into the M365 Copilot BizChat, I'm like, oh, great. There's going to be agents now that are going to be created that can connect into different, systems and have an easy way of building it. My take on what I just saw, or what everyone just saw with the AI agents, is this is maybe a different way of calling this a custom GPT. Because if you think about what you just saw was, all right, create some uh, create a knowledge base based upon data that is added in, maybe IT oriented, quote unquote, connections. You saw in there, connecting back into Dynamics. That's all data. Give it a name, give it a persona of what it should be doing, and slap an icon on it. That's a custom GPT. So while I think that's great, by the way, don't take it wrong. The ability to build what we just saw, I think, is super powerful, because now those things can be built, and I could call into an agent. But it's not a true sense. And again, I go back. I'm more of this technologist, and I've built agents with AutoGen and building things within semantic kernel. This is not that, but it still is powerful. So
Absolutely. Okay. What else, JB?
yeah. So just one last thing on this wave 2. It doesn't stop just at that biz chat. There are some improvements also within SharePoint. So again, being able to tie back into these AI-based systems within SharePoint. So SharePoint now can actually automatically summarize documents, create content, as well as then help with streamlining project management. These are things, again, where this wave 2 or bring in these capabilities. There's also a tie back into those agents, again, being able to do repetitive tasks that that people do currently today in SharePoint. Anyway, that's a lot on the startup. Sorry, on the launch, or sort of a launch, that's coming out.
Yeah, and no, I think that's good. I mean, we do bring, of course, quite a bit of like the Microsoft updates because of our own backgrounds. And there's tons of people out there who use like pretty much whole world use one or other Microsoft platform. So I think everybody finds it relevant when it comes to SharePoint, Office. I think most of the people know about it. I think they will benefit. Um, the SharePoint part that you mentioned, Jamie, that I think this is also really really helpful, because tons of data sits within the SharePoint, and working with lots of customers, we have been constantly hearing about it, that they want to make better use of the SharePoint data. So I think
Yeah.
this will really actually help them.
For sure. Yeah. I was biting my tongue because there's more things that were announced. Maybe we'll cover it next time. Connecting it to SharePoint data, and I'll tease everybody. There were some new things that were announced with Logic Apps to connect into SharePoint data and automatically create indexes. Well, there you go. I just gave you some of it, but maybe we'll do a demo next time around that.
Yep, next time. Okay, moving on to our segment, AI Startup of the Week. This week, I want to talk about World Labs. So, you know, Jimmy, we have been talking about these large language models, right? So, what does large language models do? As the name suggests, language, right? So, they started really with the text and the language. They started understanding the languages, but that capability has been also extended to the media, right? In terms of the images and the videos, etc. But all these things are still 2D, right? It's still two dimensional. Whether it's pixels or whether it's characters, whatever it is, they are still all two dimensional. But what about the 3D world? We live in 3D world, right? And how do you map that? And how do you interact with it? How do you understand the 3D world with all its physics, semantics, structure, construct, and all that, and all those fluid dynamics and all those things, and then also ability to create that 3D world, or whether it's in the real sense, or even virtually, right? That would require a different level of understanding, right? Because it's not just language or the content, and that's what the World Lab promised to do. So the World Labs, it's a very recent startup. They just raised some money as well. It's a company which is promising to understand and create this spatial intelligence, right? So it's a spatial intelligence AI company building large world models, not LLMs, but LWMs, to perceive, generate, and interact with the 3D world. And they want to transition into the 3D world, whether it's virtual or real. And it is founded by some big names, including Feifei Li. She's actually a known researcher, AI researcher. I believe she's from Stanford, and bunch of other luminaries as well. So that's what they're trying to do. It's a very new initiative, so they haven't still created something, but this is the area that they are actually trying to build things and then deliver it.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's always something new going on.
Always
AI.
something new.
Yeah,
That's for
absolutely.
sure.
Okay. And I wanted to talk about something else as well, Jamie. Um, at I a couple of weeks ago, actually, I was at the U.S. Open, and I love tennis. You can see that in my title as well. So I went there. It's a great experience. It's like a theme park experience. You move from one match to another. There's always something, right? I mean, like a kid in theme park. This ride is good. Or let's go to that ride now. That looks good. You keep moving around, and I went there with my daughter. So it's really fun. And this year was also actually pretty like popular. There was a record crowd, the highest ever, 75,000 on the opening day. And in general they have like I think almost a million on-site fans across the 2 weeks. This event goes actually 2 weeks. In fact, they added a fan week as well, so it kind of a week zero. And then 15 million global digital audience. And with that kind of reach, there is a lot of possibility of using AI at US Open. And I was looking for how they're using it, and this is what I found. So they are using, for example, generating match reports, and these are like detailed articles for all 254 singles matches, and they offered in-depth analysis and statistics within minutes of match completion, so that people can immediately look into it. The other thing was enhanced AI commentary. And this is like on demand match highlight videos with more contextual insights, narration, almost in real time. And in fact, we saw something similar that was done by NBC Peacock for the Olympics, right? When the custom recaps were actually generated in legendary Al Michaels' voice, with his permission, of course. So again, I mean, a lot of AI was actually used during the Olympics as well, and in US Open, I saw that as well. And then there was a redesigned app, so it's called Slam Tracker, and which now has like AI generated win probability predictions, 3D ball trajectory data again, right? Kind of like mapping the ball trajectory, etc., in 3D, and seeing all those kind of motions and trajectories, and then
How,
real time
how,
player movement analysis, etc. as well.
how good was it at its win probability? Did it, did it
I
predict-
very good question. I did not track that data in terms of how it was showing, but whenever there was match and I looked at those probabilities, they looked like expected. To be honest, right? Like as per the human expectation, like I knew that this player is going to have an upper hand, and they seem to be in line. Some were surprising though, right? Because I did not know the past statistic, and I was surprised to see, hey, this player is a better player. Why is this showing the lower probability? But then it also need to consider a lot of historical data. So sometimes it is surprising, and of course, tennis is a game of upsets. Upsets do happen. It did happen. Alcaraz was beaten quite early. Djokovic was beaten quite early. So those win probability can only do so much. Honestly, they obviously what they were showing that they were going to win it, but it didn't happen. That happens a lot at tennis. But by the way, another interesting thing, Jamie, line calling, okay, by Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a company, actually, it is owned by Sony now. They have been working in this space for quite some time. What they do is they have all these computer vision models, etc., and they track the ball, and they can make a call whether it's in line or not, right? Online or not. And it's an interesting game because even a touch, just a feather touch, a millimeter touch of the ball on the line is an in. And it creates a lot of confusion, right? Many times it's a ongoing problem in tennis. There's always some conflicts. The infamous incident like Serena lashing out at the line person there. So all these things happen, and the Hawkeye has now completely replaced all the human line judges. Not just this year, it actually happened in 2022. And in most of the majors, this has happened. A lot of events that I see, I watch tennis a lot. A lot of events have also adopted this. So there are no more human line judges. And that actually has created a positive experience because what happens is, since there are no human line judges, computer is making a call. There is no conflict, there is no challenge system. Earlier what used to happen is every player will get 3 challenges per set, and they can use it if they don't feel satisfied with the line call. But then there were a lot of frivolous challenges. Players were using it just because they have it, like it is clearly out, and they will still call for challenges. Waste of time, right? It wasn't so good. So all that is gone now, so things are faster. And I could see that sometimes balls are too close, or they look like that, okay, it could have been out but it was actually in. But hey, there's nothing player can do. They just suck it up and then move on, essentially. I would say it's a positive, but not so much for the line judges. So all line judges are gone, right? It's a good example of how the AI will create positive experiences, but also take certain jobs away. Make no mistake about it. It will happen. But a lot of jobs will reshape. New jobs will also get created. In fact, I want to actually just call out, because we're talking about the jobs here and it always sensitizes things. Just a couple of days ago, there was actually a report that came out which talked about the kiosk, right? So all these kiosks that we have in the fast food chains, we go to McDonald's, etc. You can order, right? That's also technology. So is it not taking the job away from the cashiers? It does, right? Because now you have kiosks. You don't have as many cashiers. So that technology is also impacting the job. But what happens? The outcome was that actually those jobs were transferred to other areas, like in the kitchen or some other areas, and handling the delivery of the mobile orders and all those kind of things. Overall, the study was that, okay, overall, actually, McDonald's was increasing the revenue because the people in the kiosk were ordering more because they had plenty of time. They were not feeling rushed by the line. They were ordering more. There were more opportunity to upsell, showing those suggestive examples. Okay, maybe you're ordering this, take this as well, things like that. People were still employed in the different areas, and it's a win-win situation, honestly. And I think AI can also do that, Jamie.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Like you said, the various different ways that AI is being used, and um, you know, like you said, things like Hawkeye and just the experiences that people have. It's the way that we tie artificial intelligence into our daily lives, and I think it should be at a point where people don't think about like, oh, this is AI. It's just part of the natural integration. So it's a great example
Exactly.
of that with the U.S. Open.
Exactly. And by the way, these technologies take time, right? Before the prime time. This is not an overnight switch. It's not just like yesterday's development. Hawkeye has been deployed for last 20 years. Last 20 years, they have been trying this and collecting the data and making it better and better and better. And finally, in 2022, they have made the switch. So it takes time. Any technology takes time. AI is not just simply going to flip the switch in one day and then done. That job is completely vaporized from the world. No, it's not going to happen. Even electricity, which has been around for like centuries, it is still not reached all the parts of the world. Technology takes time.
Yeah.
And we may see that in certain pockets immediately, in the urban, most modern areas, most modern technology companies, etc. But it's going to take a long time. People are still doing the upgrades. There are still companies who don't have the e-commerce, for example, right? There are still companies who are not on the cloud. It's not just that they don't want to, it's just they haven't got around to it. So it takes time. By the way, just quick more statistic. This US Open AI is, by the way, enabled by IBM. So IBM uses the Watson X platform, and they have their own large language model called Granite. That's what actually they use to create a lot of these AI development and enhancement. To be honest, I think it's a good start, but I think there's a lot that can be done. If you look at this simple US Open app and try to interact with it, that chatbot is ancient. I it wasn't a good experience. I did not like it at all. I think that's the first thing that they should do, immediately change that with an LLM. You can clearly figure out it's not an LLM. It just doesn't know how to interact. It doesn't know how to handle your queries.
So I know we're a little over an hour at this point. I'm sure people have a lot of things on their plate. Want to make sure that we stay within an hour for sure. I know that there's, I kind of alluded to up front, the ability to use Gen AI to do coding. And I'm sure a lot of people have certainly heard of like GitHub Copilots and just leveraging those tools. Maybe I'll do that at a different day, maybe cut one of our lab snackables, showing the way that we could actually use that. So we'll leave that for another time. But any last, I guess, imparting words for our listeners today?
No, I think I would say, Jamie, that yeah, we covered a lot. I think we were planning to cover more, but I think we'll restrict at this time. We will cover it another time. We do want to actually hear from our listeners, so please do tell us if you want to hear even more content. Right? Please do drop your suggestions in the comments. That's the only way we will know. You can contact us as well, but tell us, what you want more content, less content, more crisp, different kind of segment, different kind of content. We would actually really appreciate and would like to actually take those feedback.
Yep, good points. So with that, I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to us today. And till next time, have a good weekend. Have a good week.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy.